Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your Happy New Year hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. 2019 has only just begun, but we're not even remotely done with 2018 yet. So today we will quickly rattle off the shows from summer season that did not convince us to see them through. Then we will rejoin our favorite pack of smooth criminals and discuss part 5 of Lupin the Third. And last but not least, it's time to unveil our personal picks for the best shows of summer season 2018. So let's kick this new year off the right way. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Alright, here we are in the top and drop, and as par for the course by now, we want to quickly talk about the shows that we didn't watch till the end. We dropped on the way there, which landed on the cutting room floor for one reason or another. So, John, what shows couldn't keep your interest until the end of the season?
I think pretty much everything I said at the start of the season that I dropped were my drops. Like, first off was Seven Senses of the Reunion. You know, that one show where it's about a bunch of kids who played an MMO. One of them died of, like, heart failure while playing, but their consciousness is still in the game world. Ooh, spooky. And, yeah, no thanks, I'm good. It's one of those, I get it, but there's go watch Dot Hack. Just do that.
Which Dot Hack, though? There are many.
Okay, I'm sorry. Dot Hack Sign, and then maybe GU, but
sure.
Don't watch Legend of the Twilight Bracelet.
I've only seen Science, so.
That's good. You're halfway there on the good Dot Hack series. Now go watch GU,
and then play all the games.
Yeah, all 7 of them.
Pass.
So, what was one of your drops?
One of my drops is actually a surprise to me, and that was Free Dive to the Future. I was really looking forward to this new season of Free. Swimming anime boys, but it was one of the shows that I let pile up in my backlog to binge later as it wrapped up, and then as the season went along, I heard more and more disappointing things about it. It seems like it was a mix of bad drama and plot contrivances that took all the fun out of the show. And those accumulated bad impressions I read from several people just killed all my desire to go back to it. Which is a shame, because I really liked the first 2 seasons of that series. But I guess Dive to the Future just focused on the wrong things this time around. And that's why I exited.
That's too bad.
Another show that you threw under the wagon, so to speak.
Island. God damn.
A light novel show to end all light novel, or was it a visual novel? I don't.
It was a visual based off of a visual novel,
right?
And they tried to hype this up because they were like, "Yeah, it's getting localized and we're releasing it on Steam." And Jesus fucking Christ, this show just starts off bad with our main character has amnesia. Great, that's what we're starting, huh? Okay, all right.
Doesn't always have to turn into a bad thing, as Planet With has proved this season. So
that's true.
But some shows just,
But then when you get shit like he's washed up on the beach of this mysterious island, one of the main heroines falls face first onto his onto his dick, and then
please, language, John.
Yes, I'm sorry. Excuse me. And then one of the girls is so fervently convinced that she has this crippling disease that she really doesn't. It's just it was just really bad, poorly written drama. It's just I didn't care, so I just took it and it had to leave the island like Big Brother. You all watch that reality TV show stuff, right?
Wait, isn't that Survivor or something?
Whatever. I'm
Yeah, you're right. Who gives a fucking shit?
Either way, Island did not catch my fancy, and I didn't enjoy it. What else you got?
Yeah, a show I was pretty sure I'm gonna drop after its first episode, and what I did. Cells at Work, a fun idea about a workplace comedy show set in the human body, with the protagonists being a bunch of blood cells and other parts of the body. But the humor in the first episode did not grab me at all, and that I think that's the main draw of the show. And if that doesn't work for you, then why keep going? And I just was not compelled to check out any more of it. But I seem to be very much in the minority here, because I heard a lot of positive things about the rest of the show from people. So if that genre is your kind of thing and you want to see it realized in an unusual setting, I'd say go for it. Maybe you will take a liking to the comedy in that show, and that will be enough. And the characters will keep you, going along and everything. But for me, just the first episode was not really a draw. So, yeah.
The last of my drops was Music Girls, or Ongaku Shoujo, if you prefer, whatever. I was really disappointed by this, because I believe I mentioned how the original short was from 2015. It was part of, the Anime Mirai thing that's been going on for several years. And it was Studio Dean flexing their animation muscle, and it looked beautiful, and it was great, and it was awesome. And this is dumpster trash. Because from the first episode, it just looks, it's the worst looking thing Dean has ever produced, in my opinion. It looks terrible. It's about this C-tier idol group, and this one girl's like, oh, I can dance real good, and I'm going to join with them, and she can't sing for shit. And it's like, all right, I see how that could be, funny, but the animation is not doing anything for me, so I just immediately tossed it aside. Like, I think I gave Island maybe 2 episodes, but this one I was like, I'm out. I'm out of here. See you later. Bye.
And given the subject matter, this is a very strong statement by you. Like, you love your idol stuff, and if a show immediately puts you off after 1 episode, even with that subject matter, that's kind of a woof.
Hey man, there's other idol shows I haven't finished or dropped.
Yeah, but not after 1 episode, right?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
So I guess. I mean, did you hear anything that you made that made you think that you made the wrong decision?
Nope.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, the last show I quit out on was kind of a back and forth for me. It was Angels of Death, the mystery / horror / thriller / comedy show that was based on an RPG Maker game about a girl named Rachel trapped in a dungeon-esque house and who's trying to get out while a bunch of people are trying to kill her. And then she teams up with one of her killers. He's named Isaac, and they try to get out of the house together. And while trying to find out where Rachel even got there, because she doesn't remember. And I thought this would be my trash stash anime for this season initially, because the setup sounded dumb, and the first episode, felt like dumb, but it was also just boring. The first episode felt really slow and weird, and the setup was like, okay, where's this going? And I wasn't really taken in by it in the beginning, and was thinking about dropping it immediately after the first episode. And then people talked up the second episode, saying it turns into a buddy cop comedy show. And that the first episode gives you a completely wrong impression, and is way too moody and dark and everything, and that the show gets much more comedy focused later on. And that got me interested again. But after checking out the next 2 episodes, I couldn't warm up to the characters at all. Isaac especially got on my nerves constantly. He's the worst kind of dumb, loud character in anime. His laugh is not creepy, just annoying. The comedy was not funny to me at all. So yeah, after 3 episodes, I gave up on this show. I read through the story synopsis though, because I had on Wikipedia, because I had a suspicion about what the mystery setup was actually about, and I want to see if I'm right, because I thought Rachel was already dead, because she killed herself. That was my guess from seeing the opening, where someone hangs himself or herself. and had to that this house was purgatory and that she had to fight her way out of it to get to the peaceful afterlife or something. But apparently I gave the author of this too much credit because I was completely wrong. The story wraps up in a completely different, underwhelming way and makes no fucking sense to me. So I guess I made the right decision and didn't really miss out on anything by not watching this show. So, yeah.
I question how much, maybe that's not fair to say, I question how much depth a game or a show based on an RPG Maker game could realistically have, but,
Well, just from the virtue, being an independent game, there are a lot of independent games with cool stories out there. So that doesn't necessarily have to be like an indication of bad quality.
Mm.
But, in this case, it just feels like, what were they even trying to do with this? And none of this worked for me. Just none of this. It felt to me like that show didn't know what it wanted to be, and none of the stuff it tried worked well either way. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and the last one I already teased last season, or I said I wasn't sure if this is going to be a review or if I'm going to drop it, but I ultimately dropped it then when that was Persona 5, the animation. I was going back and forth on this as well. I was like, am I going to watch this? I watched the first episode and then, heard a lot of bad things about the animation and saw some clips of the animation and was like, oh God. And, it's 24, 26 episodes long, and that is a big game. I don't think that's nearly enough time to get the story and give the story and characters enough screen time to come even close to how well the game wrote them, characterized them, and everything, and get all this interesting story stuff in there. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll watch it and detail how this fails as an adaptation of a video game. And yeah, but there was so many other shows to watch and work and stuff to do, and I was like, I can't make time for this, especially if I have force myself to watch this. And it sounded like, from everything I heard, it sounded like I would have had to force myself to watch through this, because I played through the game twice. I loved it, or I still love it. I'm probably gonna, be suckered into playing this fucking re-release that's apparently coming out next year again as well. Whatever they do to it, if they only add one chapter of character story to it more or something, I'm probably gonna play that too. But just watching that thing that I love in a lackluster version, I can probably tell you already what sucked about it. That too cramped. Bad direction, bad characterization, bad animation. Those are probably the hallmarks of a bad video game adaptation. And it seems like Persona 5 the animation is checking off those boxes.
I hear the special that they had after the series ran, I think Dark Sun it was called, was not great either.
Great. I was thinking about checking at least that out to get more of an epilogue. But then again, the game doesn't need an epilogue. The way it ends is perfect. Perfect. And the show doesn't have anything, in my opinion, to add to that in any meaningful way. For if there were any people who were actually, looking forward to that comparison out there, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. If we ever do a spin-off of this podcast where we talk about video games, I'll gladly sing Persona 5's praises and talk at length about why this is one of my favorite they wish, not favorite anime, favorite RPGs of all time now. It ranks up there, definitely. But yeah, not about the anime. And yeah, that's that. And then everything else we talked about in the sneak peek, we either have reviewed or will review, because it was a two-core show, or will be, like Banana and Fish and Attack on Titan Season 3, for example. Although that one will be a while, because the second part of that will start in spring. So for those of you who are looking forward to our thoughts on that, you have to be a bit more patient, just like we need to be. Anyway, yeah. But it's come. And it's supposed to be really good. Anyway, that's it for the Chop and Drop. Now it's time to once again say let's get dangerous and talk about Lupin Third.
Yes, so 2018 saw the return yet again of one Arsène Lupin the Third, as he and his gang have sniffed out a fresh source of income, jacking the digital profits from a pack of dark web drug dealers who distribute narcotics online via an illegal marketplace called Marco Polo. So it might be digital cash this time, but, Lupin's going to get your Bitcoin, so watch it. But, there is still a safe to crack. In this case, a fortress-like cloud server in the middle of the ocean, and there's still a key named Ami, the hacker who built Marco Polo's payment systems. Lupin's ready to do what it takes to get her to open up, but she's already about to crack and requests the legendary thief's aid in her escape. Meanwhile, Lupin's foes find that the best way to capture the thief is to turn to social media. And this is the setup for our finally modern-day super hacker masterclass, Lupin the Third.
Well, he's not the best hacker in this, to be fair.
Which kind of makes me glad, because when your main character is the amazing super hacker, that kind of doesn't do it for me. There's a show that we're going to be talking about soon-ish where that happens, and it sort of put me off from the character. And we've talked about it in Sword Art, because fuck Kirito.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. And yeah, I mean, Lupin is a genius, but, he can't do everything. And that's also, that's a very integral part of the show. Like, him and some of his companions not necessarily being able to keep pace with the times. And that's in general, the setup for this season was probably the most interesting Lupin has gotten for me. The whole theme complex of social media, the way it influences people of today, the way it's integrated in our society, and how it can be corrupted by powerful people and used for their own gains and everything. Not to take away too much from this, but the ultimate, quote unquote bad guy. It's a matter of perspective, but the final antagonist of the show is like this fill in Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, whatever tech mogul that you would expect. And yeah, it all fits with this season of Lupin, which is like this very contemporary and socially / politically, relevant subject matter that's tackled here for a Lupin show. I mean, it's not going like super deep into that. Like, it's not like, oh my god, this is like a super deep and dark and dramatic meditation on what it means to live in our current society and being integrated into social media and all the bad things that has wrought on us as humankind. But it's playing around with it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it kind of touched on the same things and this is going to be a weird draw, but bear with me, with Gotcha Man crowds, because the central theme of that show was definitely about the dangers of social media and mob mentality and not being able to think for yourself, because I feel like that comes into play a little bit in this show.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know what you think.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one of the main central themes, I would say. Well, not in all of. We first have to say, talk about the structure here to to make this understandable. So basically, this season of Lupin is like separated into 4 parts. They call it episodes in the show, and then those are interspliced with some one-offs and some filler stuff. And those 4 parts are kind of loosely interconnected. Like, there's some stuff that carries over and some characters are introduced to become more important later on, or, get a break and then appear later again. And it all like flows together at the end. And some of those episodes are more relevant to the stuff you just mentioned with Gotcha and Crowns, and some feel a bit more standalone, I guess. or are more related to the character development. Like, for example, this season takes a definite statement on Lupin's and Fujiko's relationship, which I found very interesting. You know, that relationship was always like kept in a certain status quo, and doesn't necessarily change that in this season, but it talks about it. And it discusses it and what that relationship means to all the different characters and how they actually see it and why it is the way it is. And I really appreciated that the show made that actually a thing in the show and a very, very important part of the development and the plot development too. And those 4 parts like talk about either the social media stuff or use some of the setups to do some character development. And it's a lot of cool stuff. And you talked about the new character that's introduced right from the get-go, Ami, or Ami, as she likes to say every so often that you don't pronounce her name the way Lupin always does.
I think Lupin keeps trying to pronounce it as Amy.
Yeah, what did you think of her?
I mean, at first she's just sort of like, whatever. I feel like they tried to at first make her be like, oh, she's this girl that needs saving, which she kind of does. But then when she starts to prove herself as being like, yeah, I can be just as helpful for you guys. I feel like, when she starts really flexing her brain to start doing things to help out the Lupin and the gang, she was really cool. And she, really seemed like a natural fit that wasn't there before. I'd like to see her make another appearance in the next part of Lupin, but I guess we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like her story is kind of finished by the end of this, just like Rebecca's story was kind of finished at the end of season 4 or part 4.
I mean, that's true, but Rebecca did at least make an appearance this time around.
Oh, spoilers, John.
I'm not giving the context for it or when it happens or why it happens.
Yeah, I initially thought she wouldn't show up at all, so I was happy when she did. Yeah, I also thought, I was kind of bummed when Ami didn't turn up in the second part of this season. And I was like, oh no, wait, was she only a factor in the first part of this? But no, then she comes back in part 3 and 4, and it's like, yeah, nice. I'm glad because I like her. I think she's not your just standard genius hacker. I mean, she is that, but her dynamic with Lupin and with the others and with Zenigata and some of the other characters in that show, especially with Fujiko too, their development of their relationship and their relationship with Lupin is really good. I
mean, the second part, obviously introduced some other characters, like it went more into detail with Albert. Mm-hmm. But it was also, I think it's worth noting that the second part was written by someone different than the first, third, and fourth parts. So that might have been also why. Yeah, it's interesting. I expected Albert to be a much more deciding factor in the later stuff too. I mean, he appears again and he definitely has an important role to play. But it's like he felt like such an important introduction in the second part of this season. I was expecting him to do just more, just in terms of he is introduced as this kind of like old companion / now maybe nemesis to Lupin, where they were both thieves and now they lead. Well, Lupin doesn't lead a different life, but Albert kind of does and manages to get an upper hand on Lupin and plan farther ahead than Lupin does. And he, the show gives you the feeling that he has Lupin figured out, that he knows how Lupin thinks, and that's why he can like counter his every move. And that's super cool. And he feels like, okay, this is the anti-Lupin. This is the guy who's more so than Zenigata. This is the guy who could bring Lupin down if he wanted to. And it was just a cool setup. There was less like, oh, that's interesting. Like the way he's portrayed in general was just like, okay, this character has a lot of potential, and then they don't do that much with him until the end. Like I said, plot-wise, he has still an important part to play, but in terms of his character development, especially in relation to Lupin, that's kind of wrapped up at the end of the second part of the season.
So yeah, maybe that is because, like you said, that part is written by a different person than the other three parts, and that's fine. I got already more character development out of a Lupin show than I expected from this thing. So I'm cool with that. It's just, it feels a bit of a waste to introduce such a cool character and then, don't give him the full screen time that he might have deserved.
I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe he'll come back in part 6 as well. We have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. Has there been a part 6 announced yet?
I think there's supposed to be like some one-off special this coming season, but that's about it from what I've heard.
So yeah, let's talk about more of the episodes and story itself. Like there's the first part is about, I think it's the first 4 episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
First 5, I believe.
Or something, yeah. And it's about, like we already said, Lupin breaking out Ami, and then they basically try to escape from the people who create this Lupin game. And what that Lupin game is basically, hey, social media, here's this master thief. Anyone who sees them, please, film him or whatever, put it on Twitter. And that way maybe we can, let the police like catch him and everything and get our money back. And that seems to work in the beginning, but then like Lupin does this genius thing where he starts Twitter and overexposes the web to his daily life so people lose interest, which I thought was a fucking genius and a nice commentary on, social media in general. Like, hey, give people too much of this, they don't give a shit. they wanna be the paparazzi who find out, and they wanna be the people who uncover your secrets. But once you show them everything, they don't give a shit anymore. And it was like, okay, that's genius. I love it.
It's just one of those things. Where's the next big new thing? We don't care.
Exactly.
Lupin's old hat.
Yeah, who cares about him? He's old news. Yeah, that was great. That was just such a nice biting commentary. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't expect Lupin as a show to be capable of, such a contemporary statement in that regard. Really enjoyed it. Again, that counts for all parts. Lots of action in this show. Lots of shootouts and chases on foot, on car. Lots of Goemon, the samurai of the group, just slicing things in half. May it be bullets or cars, it doesn't matter. And or people. Jesus,
yeah.
That's when the second part happens. Albert comes into the picture. He shown the shadows in the first part. And it's like, okay, maybe he's pulling the strings, but there's something else behind it, and there's a wider plot happening here, and that comes up in part 2 that he is very much part of. It's kind of a spy political plot. It ends up with everyone being chased by assassins, and those fights in that part 2 are really wow, they're really violent. There's a lot of blood. I did not expect that show to get so bloody. And the second part is pretty much, well, not the only thing, but the one that gets so gratuitous with its violence, which I did not expect.
It was shocking, really.
Yeah. It was really like, holy shit, where's this going? And then they pedal back on that in the coming parts. But part 2 is, Jesus, really violent. But entertaining and really cool action. So, yeah. And then we get to part 3, which reintroduces Ami, who's made friends with a princess at the school she's going to now. And there's a coup staged in the country of that princess, and, things are happening. And that also introduces, on the side, the final antagonist for the show, who comes into play fully in the 4th part.
Mm.
And all of that is kind of interconnected, like I said, loosely. Like the first episode, introducing Ami and everything, kind of does the setup. And some of the characters that appeared on the side, like the one of the assassins' families, comes into play later again in the final part and everything. And the first part leads into the second, where Albert makes his play, and then that leads into the third, where we get a bigger picture on what is happening in another country, and then, with social media and everything, and that leads into the final part. That is pretty much all about this series version of Facebook, maybe. and only with creepy face recognition and invading everyone's privacy, with consent.
That was starting to get a little real.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary stuff. I mean, like I said, the final antagonist is not. He comes across as a super dirtbag for many reasons in the beginning, but he also doesn't have like evil motives necessarily. He's misguided, definitely, but it's not like that you could say, okay, this is all for personal gain. Partially it is, but not only. And yeah, that was interesting too. You could have like made this completely one-sided bad thing, and don't get me wrong, the show paints us as this bad thing, but it's also shifting to the blame to some of the other parties, where the antagonist is saying, I'm not gonna turn this thing off. This is objective, and if none of you people had secrets, this thing would work. Like, this thing would treat everyone equally, and there would be nothing to unearth, and there would no governments and economies crumble onto the revelations brought upon by my invention. And that's kind of true, but also not. It's more complicated than that. Like, he's glossing over some of the more complicated parts that he just wants to ignore, I guess, because of his idealistic worldview. And that's understandable, but it's still like, dude, open your eyes. The world doesn't work like that. And it's fun that the show tackles all that. And I know it's probably complicated to make sense of what I'm talking about without knowing the story's content, but I don't want to give everything away because, like I said, I think it's legitimately cool that a Lupin show that it's basically about a wacky thief stealing shit, being a big goofball while also being a gentleman, or trying to, with his wacky crew of companions, that also tackles like themes like that.
I think it kind of makes it probably the most cohesive of the series to date, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. It feels like a thing that runs, even though it is intercepted by short filler episodes. We will talk about those in a minute because those are also very interesting. But it feels like this is like a coherent vision and has like this through line, both in terms of theme but also in terms of plot, and how the characters that are introduced and reintroduced, how those characters are used throughout the series, and how everything flows together at the end in terms of character development and revelations too. Also for the main characters, like I said, for Lupin and Fujiko, it all works. It all feels like even though, like I said, it's shorter parts that are connected, it feels like it's coming out of one mold. And like it feels very coherent. It's cool. Yeah. Let's talk about the filler episodes, because those are also kind of interesting, because in each of the filler or one-off episodes, you get a Lupin from a different era. Those different versions of Lupin on the outside can be told apart by the color of their jacket. All of the different eras of Lupin anime had different colored jacket Lupins. Green jacket, pink jacket, red jacket. And I'm more familiar with the red jacket one because those are the OVAs or TV specials that I watched. Or before this, the current one is the blue jacket Lupin. Mm-hmm. But we also get, we get an episode of pink and we get an episode of green. And they all are slightly, even in this show, slightly different variations of the character, and differently animated, differently written, characterized. And I think the show brings this across rather well too. I don't know how accurate it is when compared to the actual early versions of this character, because I have no point of comparison here, because I haven't watched most of that stuff. But they feel distinct enough that you can see, okay, this character lived through different incarnations, and every time someone else wrote that character, or at least in the anime adaptation, other people were responsible to bring that character to screen and gave him their little touch. And that's why he was a different character in different incarnations. Like the pink jacket Lupin in this is extremely cartoony, slapsticky. He has like this, it feels like the episode that he is in feels like the Saturday morning cartoon thing, where it's like a really goofy story about two brothers trying to create the most safe.
Yeah, that episode didn't do a lot for me. It's just,
for me neither.
Like, I mean, I get what they were trying to do, but I was like, I feel like a lot of the other filler-ish episodes kind of jived a lot better with the rest of the series. This one just felt like it felt out of place.
It felt anachronistic, kind of, yeah. But only probably because we only know the current version of Lupin, which is, this really nice mix of gentleman thief and goofball. Like, I think and that's yeah.
Yes, I mean, the two that I know best are the blue and the red jacket, so,
yeah, me too. In general, I felt like the filler episodes were the weakest stuff of this season. They were interesting, but just in terms of what stories they were telling and, what character stories, they felt a lot more basic and a lot more, like, simple than, the stuff we currently get. We got in season 4 and now in season 5.
Well, I mean, that's because they're trying to, tell a self-contained episode or a self-contained story in one episode.
True, but just
each of them was written by someone different. So
yeah, definitely. And I know what they were going for and everything, and I really appreciated it. But just, when you compare that to the more plot-driven stuff with in the Blue Jacket shows, and don't get me wrong, the previous season had a lot of in-between filler stuff as well. Just, I feel like the Blue Jacket stuff appeals the most to my personal sensibilities, whereas I like my plot-driven stuff and my character-driven stuff. I think the Blue Jacket stuff pulls that off the best from what I've seen. Like I said, I've not seen much of Lupin. It's been ages since I watched Castle of Cagliostro, but I think that was a Green Jacket incarnation, if I'm not mistaken. But I appreciated the actual Blue Jacket stuff in this more than I like the stuff with the older Lupins. And don't get me wrong, there are decent episodes in there. Like, there is one with the Green Jacket episode is a murder mystery, which I thought was pretty cool. I like procedurals, and that was just a well pulled of murder mystery with kind of a cliche plot twist, to be honest, which is like, okay, of course it's that, sure. But,
yeah.
but Lupin himself felt like, in that version, pretty much the closest to what he is in his Blue Jacket incarnation, in my opinion. Like, there's one goofy scene in the beginning, but then he's like the straightforward, smart, intelligent person that, is miles ahead of the other people and just, completely has them figured out and everything. And that's cool. He's just a cool guy. While in the pink version, he's like a total idiot. He's a complete moron that gets hit with big hammers by fucking Jigen and Fujiko. And it's like, okay, what is this? And the Red Jacket version, at least in one of the episodes, he is like the super horny adventurer Indiana Jones knockoff. That didn't really jive with me. I don't mind the supernatural stuff. Also, that came across kind of weird, especially when compared to the pretty realistic contemporary stuff that we got with the Blue Jacket storyline in this season. But the worst off in that episode is Fujiko, because she's like this really ditzy, I don't know, prissy dumb version of herself that is just not up to date anymore. That feels like, okay, this is definitely from an old version of Lupin, where the most important thing is that is a hot woman who doesn't really contribute anything else to the advancement of the plot and doesn't help the group really. And it's just there to cause trouble for everyone, and that's just not the Fujiko I'm used to. I'm used to like this super smart, badass, on par with Lupin in level of intelligence person who constantly challenges him and he constantly challenges her. They have like this great dynamic. And in this Red Jacket episode, it felt like, oh, she's just in there for Lupin to lust after her, and for Jigen and Goemon to complain that she is in on this adventure with them. And it's like, I don't need this. I don't need this portrayal of this character. And, Lupin has also been done better. So, yeah, I didn't like that. There are two more Red Jacket episodes. One is completely about Gormon. I also didn't like that one.
No?
No, I don't. I don't. I think Gorman is a cool character, but that storyline just felt too. I don't know. What's the right word?
Meandering.
Yeah, thank you. It felt like that episode. I know it was just a one-off, and it was supposed to be more of maybe a comedy driven show because episode because Gorman got roped into this ridiculous stuff, but. I don't know. That episode also didn't do it for me. I found it to be kind of boring. But you liked it, apparently.
I thought it was enjoyable to see him figuring out this whole mystery on his own and, helping
it's fine.
Keeping this neighborhood safe.
It's fine. But when compared to all the other stuff in this season, it was like, yeah, okay. This is all right, but I can take it or leave it. There's another Red Jacket episode where Zenigata, seems to have lost his memory and suddenly becomes a master thief or gets coerced into being a master thief as well, and he can pull it off really well because he remembers all the stuff that Lupin did for some reason. And that's funny in concept, but they really didn't do anything with it, in my opinion. Really anything interesting. It's like, haha, this is funny because now Lupin gets is outmatched by Zenigata, but not because he's trying to catch him, but because he's being a better thief. Funny again for a one-off episode, but you could also have done so much more with that, and it was kind of a waste. So yeah, all the Pink Jacket and Red Jacket stuff just didn't do it for me in this season. I'm pretty sure, that's just me. I'm pretty sure there are people that love the Red Jacket incarnation, that love the Pink Jacket incarnation. And there are we're head over heels for these episodes. And we're like, oh my god, that's amazing. That's the Lupin I remember and that I grew up with or whatever, and that I love. And yeah, and like I said before, the Blue Jacket stuff, I watched some of the Red Jacket stuff, but I haven't watched that in ages. And maybe if I went back to it now, I would be like, oh god, no. What we got in the past years was much better than this. So I don't know.
What did you think about? I don't think we touched on it. The episode with Zilberstein in the chess match, and the girl that Jigen has to out-sniper.
That's also great. That's a Blue Jacket filler episode, I think. And I love that episode because I think the sniper duel between Jigen and the other sniper is fucking cool. I mean, what's not to love? And the chess play in the same time. Lupin putting his life on the line was thrilling. And also like the other Blue Jacket filler episode where they just hang out together in their apartment in France and going through their daily lives and the weird stuff that comes with that. What classifies as daily life for Lupin. But Zenigata popping up there and Fujiko being there, and you don't really know what she's doing and what's happening. But all of that was super sympathetic, and it focused on the main characters and how they interact with each other. And that I love those when those are together in their current incarnation and just bump into each other, just just interact with each other and talk with each other. And I really really like that filler episode too, where it's just those guys in that. Hanging out in that apartment and doing things together. So yeah, all the Blue Jacket stuff from beginning to end in this season was amazing in my opinion. It's just that the other stuff, the callbacks to the earlier versions of Lupin didn't work for me. Or not all of them anyway.
And it didn't exactly ring true.
Yeah, not for us. I mean, like I said, for other people, maybe the best stuff in this season, I don't know. I haven't checked Lupin Twitter. So I don't know, but it's like I said, it's really cool that it's in there. Just even doing this, like, hey, here's this character with this rich history in manga form, in animation form, and we can pull from that to say, hey, this is what this character also is. This is also what this character is. All these versions are legit. All these versions are valid. All of these are Lupin, and that again also. If you consider how the show wraps up, all of these versions are Lupin, and that is, the at the end the show asks the simple question, what is Lupin? Like Fujiko asks him that directly, kind of, what is our relationship? What am I to you? What are you? Those different incarnations play into the resolution of that as well, in my opinion. Again, I can't go into detail because that would be a spoiler. Like, how Lupin answers Fujiko's question is a very interesting thing, in my opinion, and the way they resolve that. And it's like, oh, yeah, sure. That's what the guy is. That's, and that's enough. That's enough for Fujiko to be like, okay, I can live with that. And yeah, and I thought the same. It's like, yeah, I can live with that. That's that's a cool thing to do. So yeah, and those different incarnations play into that as well. Because let's say Lupin is a guy of many faces, and that the show proved that in more ways than one, and did a very good job at that, in my opinion. Even if you don't necessarily have to like all the versions of Lupin that exist and all of his faces. Some random observations. There is like this one flashback to Lupin's and Albert's shared history where they fight a giant leopard man with an axe in some kind of dungeon, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that was...
Now I want to watch that Young Lupin series that doesn't exist. Give me a prequel that is all about Lupin and Albert, where they have teamed up as thieves and work together. I'd love to watch that show. That would be cool. And how those drifted apart by the end and everything. I think that would be a cool thing they could do next. See some of their adventures. Also, again, cool soundtrack. Like
Yuji Ono is on point as always.
Yeah, nice Jesse tunes. The OP is not as good as the one for Part 4.
Yeah, we were spoiled by the OP for Part 4.
Yeah, that was kind of a disappointment.
Because it had snappy animation, everything was on beat with the music, and this one kind of has this weird like pastel-y almost sketchbook look to it, and it wasn't terrible, but it didn't do a lot for me.
The fourth one had a much more interesting style to it.
Which is weird, considering I like this series more overall than I did 4.
Yeah, me too, definitely. Like 4 was more uneven, and it had a still
really
like 4.
Goofy, weird ending.
Yes, the ending is where it kind of completely fell apart because it was so out there and didn't fit the rest of the tone of the show. Like the rest of the show was very, your normal cape and cowl stuff with thievery and conspiracy and government agents and everything, and it all fit with the Lupin stuff. And then they introduced this really weird techie supernatural element into it at the very end, which didn't work. Like, not at all. And, don't get me wrong, Lupin has done that before, like integrating supernatural elements into its story. And that can work, but in this case it didn't. And yeah, so the aftertaste of season 4 was a bit of, okay, this was great, but could have ended that a lot better. And I didn't get that from this season. I thought it was from beginning to end, a few hiccups by through the filler episodes aside. This was an incredibly strong outing.
I mean, it may have been because the bulk of the main story was written in spite of this Part 5 having 8 writers. The bulk of the story, like parts 1, 3, 4, in that one of these side episodes, episode 11, the one about Get Pablo's collection, were all written by one person, Ichiro Okoji, whereas Part 4 was written by like 5 people all together. Okay. So it kind of... And
the main bulk of the 8 writers for this one probably, or different writers probably were responsible for the filler episodes, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there were 2 or 3 people who it looks like, as far as I can tell, didn't have a whole lot of writing experience prior to this. Like episode 6, 17, and 20, I couldn't find any writing credits to their names for Daisuke Sako, Takahiro Okura, and what a name, Shatner Nishida.
Okay.
I guess his parents must have been fans of William Shatner. I don't know.
Maybe.
But episode 12, the Goemon one, was written by, and this was interesting to me. There's a couple of big names on this list. Episode 12 was written by Kazushige Nojima. And if you know that name, you probably know Final Fantasy 7, 8, 10, 10-2, Crisis Core, and Kingdom Hearts, because he was one of the lead writers on those games in those series. Episode 18, which is one about, all of them hanging out in the apartment, was written by Yuniko Ayana, who's done stuff like The Seven Deadly Sins. I think he specifically wrote, or he or she specifically wrote Signs of the Holy War, Aikatsu, Aquarian Logos, Brotherhood, Final Fantasy 15, which I think we both agree is great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Flip Flappers and a few other things. And then 19 with Zilberstein was written by one Keiichi Sigsawa, who we've talked about previously about Kino's Journey and SAO Alternative. So there has been quite the cavalcade of writers working on this show, and in spite of that, it still feels mostly cohesive.
Yeah, except for those callback episodes, I would say it adheres to a cohesive vision. And yeah, that's admirable. I wonder how many of the people who wrote the callbacks episodes were fans of the old Lupin stuff, or part of the production of that. I have no insight into that.
I mean, that's entirely possible. I had thought of that.
I wonder how the producers decided to, okay, we're gonna pick for the callback to Pink Jack Lupin, we're gonna pick that person because, or what was the decision process behind that? Did this happen at random, or were people nominated, or were people raising their hands saying, "Oh yeah, that's a Lupin I grew up with. Can I write that episode?" I wonder how that how the production committee decided on that. So yeah, I would like to know more about that part of the production. But yeah, like we already said, it all comes together at the end, and that is good and important. And I left this show pretty damn satisfied. I wouldn't mind another season of Lupin, but I won't be sad if we don't get another full season. I feel like this is a good ending point for Lupin. If there was not any more Lupin period, this is a good final statement on why Lupin has endured through the times, what makes him cool, what makes the show work, what makes the characters in the show work, what his relationships to the character in the show are, why that works, why so many people are drawn to it. That all gets brought up in this show, in text. Not only in subtext, the show is very, very much asking those questions. Who is Lupin? What is he about? Could he survive in today's world? And that's not only meant as a character, but also as a concept, as a show. Is that kind of character welcome in today's world? Can he work? Can he survive? And that pretty much counts for the anime world as well. And I think the show has a pretty good answer for that. Why, yes, he can. Why it works. And how they did it so far. And yeah, I think just, that's super interesting for a show to ask such a question, especially for one that's been so long running. I think that's the only reason why it can do that. It's always been moderately successful. I think this is a really strong season. I think you will get most out of it if you are at least familiar with Lupin. Probably the most out of it if you have watched more than one incarnation of him. All four would be best, probably. If you are a Lupin nut, so to speak. But you don't have to. It's enjoyable either way, I think. And you learn enough about the characters and their relationship that you can completely understand what the show is going for by the end. And also, we haven't mentioned that yet, but that show looks really good.
I think it's probably one of the best looking of the bunch.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Just in terms of style, it still has that in spades. You got your kind of watercolor backgrounds. In general, you get a lot of interesting vistas. The fourth season had this, it was mainly set in Italy, and now we get mostly France, but also, some other countries. But it all looks very varied and interesting and cool and stylish and genuine. just the artwork in the show is fantastic. And the animation is mostly up to par. Like, really good stuff, some really fluid stuff. Of course, there are some episodes that are a bit more limited, but most of them just look fucking great. Really snappy animation when you needed some snappy slapstick stuff, when you needed some sometimes very violent action stuff.
Yeah.
This is really impactful. The car chases look great too. You know, everything you could want out of a heist show in terms of animation you will get here. It's a stellar looking show. It's really good stuff in more ways than one. And all the character stuff just fucking works. It endears you to the characters. It makes you understand them more. I love, there's this one episode where the show pokes fun at Zenigata's obsession with Lupin, where Ami is like downright, oh, you love him, right? That's why you can't stop chasing him. And Lupin's immediately like totally into this. Is like, oh, please kiss me. Save me, Totson, save me.
Lay one on me, pops.
Yeah, Zenigata is totally taken aback. It's like, no, that's not what it is. And everyone who watches the show is like, yeah, of course that's what it is. Obviously. So much stuff where the show like pokes fun at itself and recognizes its own themes, its own shortcomings, maybe in some parts, or its characters' shortcomings, and tries to discuss them, bring them up, like let the characters talk about it themselves and bring in some development there. And that's really cool. For such a long storied franchise to bring something new to these long and storied characters is just an impressive feat in my opinion. Also, all the other interesting themes that they discuss in terms of the current political and social landscape of our world. So yeah, lots of stuff to see in this show, lots of stuff to have fun with, lots of drones. There are many drones in this show. Like, holy shit, every episode has a fucking drone.
Hey man, it's the future.
Yeah, I guess. But man, I think if you make that a drinking game, you know, take a shot every time a drone appears on screen, that's one of the many anime brain freeze drinking games that could kill people, I think.
Oh no. Don't actually do that.
No, don't. But if you want to, you can. Anyway. So yeah, I loved Lupin Part 5. I think it's a fantastic action / comedy / whatever show, heist show. Spy show, thief show, I don't know what you want to call it. It's just Lupin. It's Lupin. Yeah, that's the answer.
That's the genre.
Yeah, that's the genre. The genre is Lupin the Third. So, there you go. That's the answer.
I mean, I thought it was great from beginning to end too. You know, the filler episodes, obviously, kind of a mixed bag, but I still think it's worth experiencing the whole thing.
And if you're not interested into seeing different versions of Lupin, you can skip those and you won't miss out on the story. So there you go. You have that option as well. And there are not that many. Like 3 red jackets, one pink jacket, one green jacket, one, and the rest is blue stuff. So, and blue is cool. Definitely.
Blue is best Lupin. Come at me.
Agreed. I won't. I fully agree.
You can feel free to leave a comment down below and tell me how wrong I am.
Yeah, please do. All we need is comments. Yeah, but that's it for our reviews for summer season 2018. So we still have one little thing to do. Best of the season. All right, it's time to pick the best of the season. John, you are the first to have this questionable honor of having to decide.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Tag it.
All right. So, while we're recording this, I'm still undecided. So I kind of have to puzzle this out because so there were like 4 or 5 shows this season I really enjoyed. I mean, the thing is, and I guess I might as well run them all of them down and then try and talk it out from there. The first was Attack on Titan season 3, because I mean it'll always be a perennial favorite. But the thing is, we only got half of the story from this third season, so I don't know. I'm not so sure I want to put it in the running because of that. Because I mean, it was the part of the story that everyone kept playing up as, or some of our mutual friends were playing up as, oh, it's not going to be as, good because we're a part of the story. Sort of like slows down. It's real talky, but they really sort of got through it and made it really interesting, I thought.
I would keep it for the next season, especially because we didn't do an official review on it.
That's true. That's fair.
And, then we can talk at length about it once the second part of the third season comes out, and that is also supposed to be a really good part. So, yeah. I guess.
So we'll table that one for now.
Yeah.
Then. The next on my list of contenders was Chio's School Road. I mean, it won't win any awards for animation, but god damn it, it was a fun and funny show that I think we both agree was just super, super enjoyable to watch. Just watching shitty characters doing shitty things to each other.
Yes. But being adorable at the same time.
Yeah, it definitely had its appeal for that. Next was Harukana Receive, just because it was just a fun little sports story. It had that breezy summer vacation feel to it, and it just really grabbed me, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't know if I really need to say a whole lot more than that, because it was what it was. It's just playing volleyball and having fun and doing your best, and yeah. The next choice was, and I don't think I need to go into detail because we just talked about Lupin, because it was great for the myriad of reasons we laid out before. So the last choice was Revue Starlight, because it was captivating from beginning to end and opened my eyes on this world of musical theater that I didn't know existed before, and reading about it and just learning about all the ties the show had to it was just fascinating to me. And I know I probably overused that word when I reviewed it a few weeks back, but there was just something so captivating and intriguing about it. So I guess between those four, I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Lupin. Just because I think it probably was the strongest out of all of these four shows, mostly because it had the best character development for Lupin and his gang that we'd seen since before the Blue Jacket era started, and it just came together in a really cool and meaningful way. And that's not to say the other shows didn't have their meaningful moments, but just I think Lupin just kind of tied itself all together a lot more nicely than the rest.
I expected you to pick a Revue Starlight because you were just
I was going back and forth real hard, man, and I don't think it's not a distant second. It's a very close second.
It's probably one of those seasons where it's like, you wake up tomorrow morning and it's like, no, I'm changing my mind.
That's like, hey, John, what's your favorite Zelda game? Today I'll say it's Link to the Past. Tomorrow I'll say it's A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah. These seasons happen. So, yeah. But that just speaks for how much good stuff there was this season.
Yeah, this was a densely packed season.
An embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, both this season that we're talking about, the summer season, as well as the next season we're going to talk about, fall season, they were both densely packed with a lot of great choices. But what say you? What was your pick?
Yeah, God, pretty much as many contenders as you had. I had one of my favorite shonen shows return with My Hero Academia, good sports action with Hanebado, and Harukana Receive, for that matter. Hilarious comedy with Chio, stellar mecha anime with Planet With, and finally a great outing for Lupin in its new incarnation. I liked all of those shows, or loved all of those shows. So it should have been a tough choice, but I kind of wasn't thinking about it for a while, and I was like, no, this is it, because Planet With did just so many things right.
Hey.
It had everything that appealed to me. A cool, weird design sensibility, great action, good jokes, a banging soundtrack, incredibly well-written story and characters. Norio Sakamoto as a giant fucking dog saying one all the time. With, lots of themes to chew on under the surface. Like, pretty much the only thing the show didn't blow me away with was the actual animation, which should be a bigger factor for points deduction than it turned out to be. This is pretty much the only department where My Hero Academia completely annihilates Planet With for me this season. And I still feel really bad for not being able to give my best of the season award to season 3 of My Hero Academia, because it was arguably its best season yet. With some incredibly powerful moments. Like 2 moments in there, at least 2, that I can hit infinite replay on, because they're so epic, they're amazing, there's such nice exclamation marks on the characters that are in there and what it means for these characters to be who they are. But again, that show will have another chance to claim the throne. It is already returning next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's coming back this coming October, which actually surprised me. I didn't think it'd be coming back until 2020.
Yeah, and if it, stays its course, which I hope it does, then it definitely has a chance to be best of the season again. And I know I said the same thing when we reviewed season 2, but then My Hero Academia ran up against fucking Made in Abyss and Recreators for me. That show has some really bad luck when it comes to what other shows it has to compete with in any given season. Come to think of it, we didn't have best of the season yet as a segment when season 1 of My Hero Academia wrapped up, but in that season it would have run against Ushio and Tora, which is also now one of my favorite shonen shows. So again, learn to pick your battles, guys. Holy shit. Anyway. It will have its chance again, and it is very much deserving, this season especially, of a place on anyone's best of the season or year list. It's just that this time around, Planet With left a stronger impression on me because it felt so fresh and full of passion, and I just feel the need to highlight this show because I think it's the most overlooked series of the season, maybe this year? Jeff Thu aside, I heard barely anyone talk about it, let alone sing its praises while it aired. And after it wrapped up, neither. And Planet With deserves so much better than that. I know anime has become even more of a fast-moving, short-lived experience when it comes to the collective viewing experience and memory of the fandom. Who remembers shows from two years ago, right? Or even 2 seasons at some point.
Yeah.
But a show like that not being on everyone's tongue, at least for a short while during its runtime, is a travesty in my book. Maybe people like me who sometimes wait until a show wraps up to binge it are also to blame because they don't contribute to the word of mouth hype while it's running. And maybe the first couple of episodes were just too weird to pull enough people in. But man, the thought that almost no one will remember that show even existed by the end of this year, the latest, it pains me. It does not feel good. So even if it won't do Planet With any good in the long run, putting it on a pedestal here and calling it the, in my opinion, best show of the season is the least I can do. And I implore all of you out there to give it a chance, even if it seems weird and inaccessible in the beginning. Trust me on this. It's worth it. And yeah, that's all I can say. That's why I picked it. I think it needs to be here. And with that, we're done with summer season 2018. The new shows of winter 2019 have already started rolling out. So we will take a stab at those in our sneak peek on the next episode. And also dish our first review for fall season. So no prolonged winter break this time around.
Oh, man.
Hey, we took some interim breaks in the past season anyway. So there you go.
Well,
that's how that turns out.
Well, some of them were unavoidable. Sorry about that.
It worked out in the end, like it always does. And also the next season might be a bit on the shorter side than, you're used to, because John watched most of the shows that we watched together, like both of us watched the same shows. And that means we can get to those pretty quickly. And like 2 or 3 shows I watched are still running because they're 2 core shows. So yeah, we'll see. Might be a few less episodes than we normally do. I haven't figured it quite out yet. How many we're gonna do.
Yeah, there's like 4 shows that I started during the fall that are still going.
Yeah.
And then Yu-Gi-Oh!
And for me it's 5, I think. So yeah, that only means that spring is gonna be hell.
Yeah. But I mean, this coming season looks a little, I don't want to say threadbare, but there wasn't as much that grabbed my attention. But, I'll
have to see.
There is time to change our minds until, Attack on Titan starts again in the spring, and then the magnificent, triumphant return of Symphogear in the summer.
Also, we have some stuff to look forward to. Mob 100, there is some stuff that is definitely must watch already, and we'll talk about that in our sneak peek next time, and all the other shows that maybe are worth our time. I'm very much looking forward to that. But yeah, until then, see you guys in 2 weeks.
Take care, everybody.
And that is a wrap on the 65th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and some interesting articles linked in our episode release posts. Follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze. We tweet regular updates and fun anime-related stuff there. Leave us comments and questions on Facebook and our YouTube channel, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut.
See you then.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
More gold.
More food.
More hijinks.
And more boners.